many industries looking for talent to fill the job openings. It's prompted a discussion about what are we really hiring for? Are you looking for Mrs. Right or will you settle for Mrs. Right now? I just thought this would be a fascinating discussion for our Experience Builder listeners because I know we're not the only ones going through this.
Strong companies, lasting partnerships, powerful events. Welcome to the Experience Builders Podcast.
Chris, how is Vegas?
Well, good to be back. Still, just white hot pace of play right now. We are, just still off to a great start. You know, when we made the leap and reopened this facility, and it really is like no other that we've ever had. The concern was the spend and will they come back if we reopen up here? So, we just had our meeting on Friday. We're 6 weeks into the first quarter and we've already blown past our Q1, our full Q1 last year, 2022. And that was a great that was a great recovery quarter for us. So we're, with pipeline stuff, we expect we're going to finish, the quarter at the end of March. We'll be up about 72% year over year. And as you know, that doesn't come without hurting yourself a little bit at that volume, right? But it's great. I mean, all the things we're focused on right now are growth-oriented things. And, if 9 people out of 13 out here are playing well with the process and protocols we have in place, that's great, right? We're still, they've been here 3 or 4 months, some of them. And so they're mostly in line with the way things have been done. But that's just, it's really,
that's
great.
Great.
So, on a personal goal, my health and fitness plan, I haven't abandoned any New Year's resolutions yet. 6 weeks, I'm still there. And then professionally, just couldn't be happier. So thank you for
absolutely.
asking.
Hey, I saw a picture of you on LinkedIn in a forklift or some sort of machinery on the floor.
Yeah. Well, super glad I had 12 front office people certified last year on forklift training, and I was one of those, right? So, and inevitably, when the materials goods shipments come in, I think we had, I don't know, like 100 sheets of plywood that had come in, but 20 minutes after the guys went out on lunch break. And, so the accountant comes in and she's like, there's a truck that needs to be unloaded. I'm like, I got
it.
this. Right. And, so I happen to be dressed for front office Zoom meetings that it take. So yeah, I'm out there and, Vicky had come back out and she's filming, and I don't feel like she was filming me to support look what the boss, she was looking for a viral train wreck video to happen, but, didn't know she was doing that until I came in. But yeah, reminded that hybrid skills matter in 2020.
More than ever. And that really kind of ties into our topic a lot, skill set versus mindset today. So
Absolutely.
when we're all dealing with the post-pandemic hiring issues. What are you looking for? Let's just go straight out with it. What are you looking for? Skill set or mindset? There's pros and cons to both. We'll discuss those here in a minute. What are you looking for at this moment in time?
So I love this topic, and I've had it with a dozen owner friends in our industry, which, and what started out is almost half and half. Well, if I'm hiring a carpenter, I say, well, I've got to have somebody that's got the skill sets, or I am for skill sets. But, and I led into discussions about project management. Well, if I need an accounting person, right, they've got to have the skills in accounting. But the deeper the conversation went about what we really all need is employees that are going to be lasting employees. So I won't bury the headline. I think you get offered the job based on your skill set, but it's the mindset you have, meaning, do you embrace a company's vision? Do you do you have a serve you mindset, not a sell you mindset? Are you a good impact on the culture there? You know, it really, what keeps you employed is your mindset. So, that's really what seem to be the consensus amongst bunch those in the industry, owners and leaders that I'm talking to. I want to set the table a
Okay.
little bit though, Khalil. Um, so, the thing about the United States, and I've been in business for 35 years as an owner, um, there's always been an abundance of labor in the
Yeah.
United States. Always. I'm not saying we haven't had the ebb and flow of unemployment being a little higher, unemployment being a little lower. But I mean, we've never experienced what we're going through today. Today, there are more than 10 million jobs available, and we have just under 6 million job seekers. In a few words, 40%, we have a 40% shortage of talent that's even
Gee.
looking for work. And we've never been there before. And, whether we have been in a recession or we're on the verge or what your definition is, it is usually the US economy will experience recession after a period of rising interest rates. And, right now, and not to get all, economic policy wonky, but right now you've got the Fed aggressively trying to slow down the economy and slow down inflation. And they're doing that by actively raising interest rates frequently. It's every quarter for the last 18 months. And they're trying to cool down the job market,
Yeah.
that demand. But here's what's happening. The job market is not
Mhm.
cooperating. I mean, so we saw all those government interest rate hikes in 2022, and we still added 4 million new jobs in 2022, which that actually is keeping us. The good thing is it's fighting inflation, so it's not allowing us to slip into a recession. Um, However, it's a problem. And this is not a bunch of people. Let's be clear. This is not a bunch of people that just haven't come back to work after pandemic, because they just got used to staying at home. And they're just waiting to come off the sidelines. Man, there is a lot of really great data for a lot of different reasons, demographic reasons, as to why those 10 million people are not
Yeah.
coming back. So anyway, so as we're all in many, many, many industries looking for talent to fill the job openings, it's prompted a discussion about what are we really hiring for? Do you hire, are you looking for Mrs. Right, or will you settle for Mrs. Right now for certain positions? Or Mr. Right, Mr. Right now. And the answer is, those that have made, hires because in the moment, I'm hearing, 6 to 9 months later, those people are gone. And so what are you really, you've got to have somebody that, yes, they have to be skilled enough to do the job, but they have to have the right mindset to want to come in
Yeah.
and learn and contribute. And so that really, I just thought this would be a fascinating discussion for our experience builder listeners, because I know we're not the only ones going through this, and everybody is there. So how about you? What's your thoughts
Man,
on,
it's so
on
hard out there. I think what you're seeing, especially on the coasts, I live in the central United States. Labor's fairly cheap compared to the coast. You can still hire people at, $35,000 a year for a entry level position. And in a lot of places, that's not possible. You're looking closer to 60,000. And so I think there's this really interesting spot of the entry level white collar worker who is, maybe has a college degree, but really doesn't have that much experience. And you're having to bring them in at an entry point that's just really high. You add on payroll, benefits, all this stuff, it's really 25% higher than that. And so it becomes very difficult to find the right player at that entry level white collar position. And so there's a lot of different options out there. I think that one, you've got to hire really, if you're going to go skill set, you've got to go all in on it. It's not just, oh yeah, the guy has a degree. No, you've got to know that they've got to be the A player that's going to really take on the workload because of their experience and capabilities of 2 or 3 people almost, because they're that good.
So
Yeah.
can I ask you a question? So I agree with what you're saying. And yet you get this great skill set, tons of experience, has the specialized skills for whatever that might be, a CAD operator, a master carpenter, the extra degree
Right.
financial person, but they're
Yep.
disruptive to your culture. Their mindset isn't, hey, I'm here, I'm good, I'm the best at what I do. This is what you're paying me
Right.
for, not to sing kumbaya with everybody else. So my point is, so what's the play there?
It's so challenging. Something that I've had a lot of success with, and I know a lot of other people are. I actually just had a conversation with a guy named John Matzner on Twitter. If you want to follow him, Jon, and then Matzner, Matzner. Really fantastic guy. This year, he's planning on hiring 45 individuals that live overseas. And it's really
Mm.
fascinating. They've got that immigrant mentality. And if you ever had a chance to work with someone who's immigrated to the United States, the mindset is absolutely there. And they are just ready and hungry to go and get it and to make some money, to work really hard, to pour everything they have into their job because it's going to provide for their family and the new opportunities that they can have from the work. But he's hiring people all over the world. If he's hiring someone that's doing coding stuff, it's in Eastern Europe. He's hiring somebody that's more service oriented, it's in the Philippines. If he's hiring somebody that's more, um, needs to be local hours to here, he's hiring in South America. He's having a lot of success doing it. So really fascinating. Obviously, it's not for a job like in your space, Chris, where you've got to be building the booth. That's not going to happen. But for somebody that is doing, invoicing or billing or working inside of software or answering the phone, those roles can be sent overseas. And that's, if you can't find the talent in the US and you can't find the mindset in the US, there's absolutely people overseas that are willing to do it. And oftentimes at a fraction of the price. So that's an interesting play that may not be accessed by the industry that much.
So see, you're right about, so some of the front office positions, we've learned, can be done
Mhm.
remotely. Um, I think one of the things we worry about is the impact on culture. What do I say to that 62-year-old account executive who, still works, 50, 60 hours a week and doesn't understand why the 31-year-old, you know, purchase order generating accounting clerk or the designer gets to work from home. And yes, while they're working on a computer, you cannot deny there's an efficiency when you're all in the same office and can have, 5, 3-minute
Right.
pickup meetings about a project. And it is more, but couple things to your point about, if you've ever worked with people overseas. So there's a lot of discussion right now that in this shortage, this talent shortage, which is not going away anytime soon, immigration is one of those things that may be able to positively impact and solve this problem. And and I'm not getting political here. And for those listeners
Yeah.
that want to get ready to climb through the screen, I'm a registered independent for the last 11 elections. I'm a father of daughters. I sign the front of paychecks. I probably lean more conservative. I like tight money, strong defense, clean water. I don't know if that makes me,
Human.
but I can tell you, yeah, I can tell you that I think everybody can get, our ancestors
Yeah.
immigrated, right? We're immigrants. So I think we all want, you know, I don't want, 3 million people a year sneaking across the border and I don't know anything about it. I think there's a right way and a
Right.
wrong way there, but there was a fascinating discussion in one of our industry advocacy meetings about what's happening on Capitol Hill. So we have one political party, right? The Republican Party has always sort of claimed the mantle of being the pro small business
Yeah.
party, right? And you're seeing a lot less of that in their identity now. Whatever they're saying, you're not seeing it in their actions. And as a guy that just lived up on Capitol Hill for 3 years, and we did get some support, but we were seeing I was seeing more support from a lot of the Democratic elected officials during pandemic. And I get it because Republicans didn't want to spend. But my point is this, Khalil. Now what we're seeing is that party's identity is shifting towards you talked about that white collar or the blue collar hustle and muscle worker. They're calling it the blue collarification of the
Mm,
Republican Party, right? So now, as we think about, you're hearing a lot of discussions saying it's okay to not have a 4-year degree. You can support your family with a great trade skills job, or how much does your
yeah.
plumber make? How much does the company that repairs your air conditioning unit? These guys are making 6 figures, but I think in America, we've always thought you had to have that 4-year academic degree. And I think there's a shift there. And boy, we could sure use that shift in the trade show and business events industry, because we know the aging population on the show floor, you know, it was already, they were retiring and many disappeared during pandemic. We know that the younger generation under 28 has never really heard of us or considered us as a career opportunity. This is the time. I'm ready to call Mike Rowe at Dirty Jobs, Khalil, and say, help me with the trade show industry, Mike. So anyway, so as we're all hiring back, skill set, mindset, I think I was sure we were going to get half and half. And I think what we're all learning is it's skill sets that get you offered the job. It's the mindset you have that's going to keep you employed at that company for the long term. Would you
I
agree?
think something to consider is, really what we're talking about. It is mindset, but at the end of the day, the mindset is a value, right? You come into that company with the
Yes.
right values. And so if you look at skills versus values, which one's easier to teach? It's always easier to teach the skills,
Oh,
right? If I said, hey, you want to learn how
yeah.
to jump rope, or you want to learn how to drive a forklift, right? Okay, how do you do it? You go, you watch some YouTube videos, you go, you get a certification, and you learn the skill. How do I get you to have a better mindset? Maybe we need to go to therapy. I don't know what it is, but that's it's a
Tough to
very
teach.
difficult thing.
Tough to teach.
So if you can find the right people with the right mindset, then you can teach them the skills, right? But that's an investment on your part as an employer. And so you still could run into the issue where they don't learn the skills well, right? Or they're not.
There's no quick solution for
There's really
either one
not.
of those,
But I
right?
mean, I think that skills are ultimately a little bit easier to work with from my standpoint. If somebody's got the right mindset, shows up every day, wants to be there, wants to learn, wants to grow and improve, is bought into the vision of the company, we can teach them how to do some stuff that maybe a skilled person needs, right? But that requires a really good culture. If we're going to really have people of those values, everybody's got to be on the same page, and you can't just expect one hire to bring all the mojo, so to speak. You've got to have it all
No, it's true.
inside of your culture.
So some of the notes I took while I was talking with owners, I'd ask the question, make the argument for skill set being the main
Yeah.
criteria for hiring, right? And so here, this is what we were hearing. We know that certain positions require specific skills, right? Carpenters require specific skills. Project managers require specific skills. A designer in our industry requires specific skills. Accounting. So I get that. Some positions just demand a certain level of experience, right? The job skills, some job skills cannot be learned academically. Man, our master carpenter in the back here, if you're not, I can put an intern or apprentice with him, but I'm telling you, they are, I can't sit him in a classroom and teach him. I love that expression. You can't learn to ride a bike at a seminar, right?
Get on
You
the
have
bike.
to, there's got to be on the job doing in order to perform at a high level. And I think it's not just carpentry. I think business development is that if you're in sales. I think if you're in the volume project management game, and that's a different volume project management. I got a guy sitting in the next office, who joined us a few months ago. I said, how many projects, so for us, an exhibit build project is everything from the actual build and the logistics of getting it moved in and out in whatever venue in whatever city. In October, he managed 26 projects in October. And when you think about that, you go, I mean, so a volume game is much different. I also think in our industry, Khalil, a big part of what we do is crisis management. You've got to have had some experience when we're out on the trade show floor and, projects have anywhere between 7 and 14 variables that you have little to no direct control over. All you can do is respond and be ready when some of those things go sideways, right? So you do have to have some experience to have the true skill set. It's tough to do that first time out. I think the work environment and the conditions the job will be performed in may also require past experience in those conditions. For example, we talk about trade shows. For a candidate to be successful, when you move in and move out shows, you're living the carnival life, right? It happens at nights. It happens on weekends. And if you're not used to that, it can be very disruptive to your family life, or just to an individual who's just not built for that. So, again, I think everybody that I'm speaking to in our industry, right, they nod and they go, yeah, you got to have the right skill set, whether it's situational experience or environment or trade skills, but ultimately it's your mindset that is going to allow you to be successful over the long term. And, so that, leads us to the discussion about, okay, make the argument as to why. And once you really, I hope our listeners, they're talking with their coworkers and their managers about this, because I think once you drill down into it, and I've had people go, look, I need guys on the floor and you got to be an I&D installer and you have to know the exhibit systems. No way you can tell me skill set's not the most important thing. Okay. But when they're disruptive, when they don't play well with others, when they're offensive in front of, in a client-facing environment, right? Just because they could be the greatest assembly person or installer, doesn't make them, they've got to understand what the business is trying to accomplish. I need critical thinking skills. So much of what we do in our industry is not defined. It is if I'm making, on this right now, my laptop is sitting on a custom counter. Building that to specs, yes, matters. But when those guys in the shop right now are building framework and the client's product shows up and we have to integrate it, and there's no blueprint for how to do that, right? You got to, and by the way, what if that happens on a Sunday, the day before, an event is opening? So problem solving skills. We've got to have more than just those task oriented doers, right? So I think that's it. I think a lot of us I'm looking for somebody that does not need to be told what to do every day. I don't care.
Well, and I think what's happening, unfortunately, is that, if you're used to hiring based on skill set, you kind of let people manage themselves in a sense. You expect them to know exactly what to do, how to do it. And while, if you're only hiring for skill set, you're probably having more trouble than someone that's hiring for mindset. And if you're going to start hiring for mindset, you got to have some different systems in place. Like, you need to have a really good training process. You need to have like direct one-on-ones with a good manager who is experienced. Maybe that's yourself. You've got to have really good systems in place that somebody can follow. And it's going to take a lot more attention to detail, but that's what's going to have to happen if you are going to have to start hiring mindset people rather than skill set people. And
you need, and Khalil, I need to be able to sit down with a person on a Monday and talk about, here's what's going on this week. And it's one step to download, and they've internalized it and they get it, and they can add value in the job duty way, but also in other ways. Because otherwise, if I have to be coming to you every 2 to 3 hours to reset here's what you got to do next. You got to do next. At some point that hurts your business and it hurts the clients and the client experience. So,
well, and I think there's a really good analogy for this, and it's climbing a mountain. And so if you're the business owner, you're the general manager, whatever it is, you've climbed the mountain several times up and down. You know how difficult it is, but you do know the route. You know what to avoid, which direction not to go, how you place your hands in a certain spot when you're climbing the mountain. You've got the essential gear that you need to go.
By the way, I have the falling down the mountain
that you've
a skill. Like I can lead,
Yeah.
my friend.
Yeah.
On
You,
that.
you can fall with
So
grace.
not so much on where to put your hands on your way up the mountain.
Well, and I think with the skill set people, when you're climbing that mountain, you don't have to guide them that much. You're able to tell them, hey, we're climbing this mountain today, we're going down this route, and then they can go ahead and go. And with the mindset people, you've got someone that's super excited to climb. They're ready to climb up and down, up and down, up and down, but they need you there. And I think if you have an issue with mindset people, it's because you have an issue with being there. And the great thing about the investment in a mindset person is that they are going to go up and down 50 times for you, but they need you there for the first 5. And if you can invest, it's going to take more time. You're going to be busy with that person for a long time, but that time is going to reduce over time. And then you're going to have someone that's completely bought in that is going to stay for longer than 6 to 9 months, maybe even longer than 6 to 9 years. Right. But that cost will go away for you. Not just the time, the money cost, but the time cost. It's there in the beginning, but maybe not there in the end because they know how to do it. They become that skilled person.
Do you think it's possible anymore and I don't want to we had Michael McMahon on a few weeks ago and, he made a correction. I said, so is it possible I was about to say for a younger person to come in with the outlook of staying 6 to 9 years at a company? But Michael, he said, if we're going to do what the world does, right. And we're going to label people young or I like what he said. Let's talk about people that are the early stages of their professional development, right? Of their career building and their reputation development. So I was always taught, Khalil, to go in with a 3 to 5 year outlook. It was long enough that an employer felt I was a safe hire, right? Because I had a mindset of not churn and burn. What can I get? And how much am I being paid in year 1? And if I don't like it, I'm out of here in a year. I see a lot of resumes. I know you do too, right? Where it's, you've been there 10 months, you've been there 14 months, you've been there 15 months. But as an employer, I think, I know it's going to take we're going to be investing that long in a person. So if they're looking to be out of there or they have a track record of self-extracting quickly, that makes a decision. That impacts
it
my
absolutely,
decision,
and it should impact your decision as a hiring business owner, general manager that's hiring. It should impact. You don't want to have to go through turnover every 10 months. Like that's ridiculous, right? Yeah. But I think the way that I approach hires, there at a base level, there has to be good compensation, right? Like if you're not allowing people to live, at their means or above their means, then they're not going to stick around. So let's assume that you have compensation down. I think that you need to have challenging work for them and meaningful work for them, right? So if you have a really good vision and their work is a part of that vision, they're going to feel some sense of meaning in their job. And we all want that. We want to do something that we feel like is making an impact, that we can see a tangible result, and that makes us feel good about what we're doing. And that's not going to be the same year in and year out. And so if you're keeping someone on the same exact type of work, just as a robot, that's never going to be meaningful long-term. It might be today, it might be next year, but maybe not longer than that. And then at the next step, they need to be challenged in their work. They need to be continually growing. And if you're helping them form that narrative inside of their job that, hey, I'm going to provide you with a new challenge. I'm going to give a new challenge to you next month. Hey, I need you to start taking responsibility for this. People want to have that sense of ownership in their role. But if you're just giving them the same task over and over, there are people that love that find their meaning and their challenge in that. But for the most part, especially with the younger crowd, like you mentioned, that doesn't look like they're staying that long, provide them with opportunities for growth, opportunities for challenge, and help them to see meaning in what they're doing. That's what I would approach.
So how do you uncover mindset when you're interviewing?
Well, again, it's a completely different approach. I mean, if you're hiring for mindset, you've got to interview for mindset, right? You can't sit there and do the same interview process as you would with someone with a skill set. You've got to make sure that you can see their mindset. I think one of the best ways to do, is really on the job interviews, of putting them in real situations where it's a trial job or something like that, where you can really get a feel for what they're doing, right? Maybe it's a shadowing experience. Maybe it's, hey, we hire you under a trial period for 2 months. I've heard
Yep.
people do that.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that. So we had 2 people interview yesterday for here, for carpenter positions. And, they made it through I call it the initial smell test, right? But the part 2 is you're coming back for a day within the next week, and we're going to pay you for the day. We're going to pay you well for the day, but I'm going to have you build a
Yeah.
custom counter. Right? We'll have the materials ready for you, but we're going to have you do it. We're going to see how you do it. We're going to see how long it takes you to do it. We're going to see if, your product's going to show us if you care about fit and finish. Are you going to ask 100 questions? Do you already know what to do? So, but to your point, you got to put them into the deep end of the pool and find out if they can swim.
Yeah.
When we were hiring for, accounting and finance positions, our CPA would give them a test. And I know that Indeed, right, which a lot of people use, actually has tests that, people can get scored. I'm amazed at how many people in the past have applied and never bothered to take those tests. And they're not, but it basically says, are they average? Are they above average? Are they exceptional? Or did they redefine
Well,
excellence?
at the same point, like, yeah, you're amazed at the amount of applicants that don't do the test. I think we should also be amazed at the amount of people that do interviews and don't really put much thought into it and don't customize it to the person and don't customize it to the role. It's the same exact process for each and every position. And they're expecting great results. That's not how it works. Same thing for the applicant. You don't fill out the job test or certification or, put a good resume together. You shouldn't expect stellar results.
I think you mentioned a minute ago about, maybe there's like a trial employment period, or I think it's more common than not in our industry. There is a 90-day introductory employment period. And some people don't call it that, right? You don't want to say, well, wait a minute, are you telling me you're going to fire me in 90 days? So when we extend a written employment offer to somebody, it says your 90-day continuing employment meeting with me. The date is literally listed on there, the date and the time. So, and what I always say when I'm, when we send the employment package over is, look, I want us to be able to have an informed conversation about how it's going. And you just can't do that right now if you're not from the industry, or even if you're not from our company. I mean, I think we're just kind of a different business model. So, but man, when I sit down now and we have that, okay, so let's talk about it. Almost every person says, man, I see why you waited 90 days to have this conversation, because holy cow, I've been out on the show floor 10 times and I've been working with the guys in the back, and I traveled down to Miami and, slept in the hotel with, 6 of the crew that traveled in, and, just really got to understand what this is about. And it's always great when they go, I love it. I'm hooked. But it's amazing what you learn about your own company too. And I think and so by the way, I do think that, he said, skill set you can train for. Mindset, the test is you've got to get out there and be in it. And then we can, so how are you reacting? You go, this is really, I had no idea that what you guys did, it really is project management on a whole nother. I thought it was just going to be a movement, but we were at a hotel in South Beach, and it was built in the 50s, and we had to unload the tractor trailer to street because the crates wouldn't fit in the kitchen hallway, which was the only way to get to the freight elevator. And by the way, we had to share it with the food guys, and we had to share it with, and it's, no one told us it was going to take till 4:00 in the afternoon just to unload our stuff. Well, we started at 8. And, what is it Mark Twain says? When you carry a cat by the tail, you learn a lesson you can learn in no other way. Right? Here's your cat. You're going to get, you're going to get scratched up a little bit. So
I think that, I think it was Jeff Bezos that was quoted with the the line, advertising is the expense you pay for an unremarkable brand. And I think that in a similar vein, that turnover is the price you pay for an unremarkable culture or work environment. And I think so many times, people might be complaining that it's the skill set people that keep on leaving the jobs, and you can't keep them around. You can't find good people anymore, right? But there's good people out there, and there are skilled
There
people out
are.
there, and somebody's hiring them, and somebody's getting them to stay for longer than 10 months. What are they doing that's different than what you're doing? So
I will, I think I'm like an old school guy, right? So I'm painfully aware that I have to change and evolve as an owner and as a leader. We used to have a training program, and it was 90 days, and it was the same for everybody. It didn't matter what
yeah,
you know, now it's a catered experience.
yeah,
It is, that I have to be willing to bring them in and make an investment. I think the norm in our industry is at least for 6 months, and you're not going to know for 6 months. And by the way, mindset also is, are you a person willing to come in and try new things
absolutely.
and, try these different jobs to learn, better understand what we do? Cause I think that's a big part of it. Anyway, as we try and kind of pull it together here so the question I think is, why did I start this thinking that skill set or mindset has to be either or? Isn't it really
It
both?
absolutely is both. I mean,
It is, isn't it? I would say a big
yeah.
fat yes to that.
And
Absolutely both.
honestly, I think that if I had to choose one, I would have to choose mindset. And yeah, all those skill sets, fantastic. There's so many times that like you're looking at someone who has this resume with senior such and such, and then how many times you've hired someone like that, and then it's like, wait a second, like how did you get that title? Like no company is equivalent in any shape or form. It's every company is unique, and just senior title at some company is maybe junior or less intern at another company. And so you never know what you're getting. And I think it has to be both. Um, but at the end of the day, I would choose mindset.
And I would agree with you. I mean, skill set gets you hired, mindset keeps you employed, but mindset is what's going to get
Yeah.
you promoted. Mindset's going to get you paid more, right? Mindset's not about your job outlook. It's about a
Yep.
career outlook. And so when your direct report supervisor or bosses see that, trust me, my experience is most people want to promote from
Yeah.
within first. So if you've got that can do, will do attitude, if you're able to understand the vision as your leadership, the executive team lays it out for you, and you can internalize that and you go, okay, I know the duties and the tasks I'm hired for, but if you can do things to add value in other ways to the greater good of the mission that's been laid out, really, I promise you're never going to be looking for the next promotion within your company. They're going to come
Yeah.
looking for you.
And
So, and in this work environment where we're 40% down on the number of people that are even applying for jobs, this has never been more true. I do think there's an opportunity to get there faster, maybe than the traditional path of, I remember I worked in the financial service industry right out of college, and they go, well, you're really just very talented, and keep this up in 10 years, you're going to be on a management track. And I'm like, and I just remember thinking 10 years, I don't want to invest 10. So, and I know that, a lot of the folks that are just entering the workforce in the last 5 years, nobody wants to hear that you have to wait. Right. I know that, but, I think so. That's part of what you look for when you're looking to match up with the right kind of company. As you said, Khalil, you want work that's
Yep.
meaningful. But you also have to go in, with the serve you mindset. It's not all one
Yeah.
way. What can I contribute to this company? I know you're going to make an investment in me. Here's what I'm willing to do for you. Man, I would run to
Yeah.
candidates that have that mindset. I think that's, again, there's that word mindset again. So, and by the way, have a great mindset if you're a little thin on the experience and
Yep.
skill set, right? You know that if a company's, are you willing to train and coach me up? I'm willing to stay. And let's talk about what that would
Yeah.
feel like as for you as risk and in a return on that investment you're going to make in me. And let me, if they go, well, I expect you to die of old age with us if I invest a year. Well, that's not
Yeah.
fair, right? So, but what is fair? And anyway, that's an inspiring conversation to have if you're young and interviewing for a job.
For sure.
So,
well, I think there's several different approaches you can take to the hiring, but skill set and mindset absolutely play a part. If you can find both, then you've found an A player. But if all else fails, I think you have to go mindset, in my opinion. What's a takeaway for somebody that's listening to the episode here? They're in need of hiring. What's something they can go and do?
I think right now more than I would have thought before. It's understanding what that mindset. It really is. I think it's not either or. I think they come in an order. There, the skill set when you write your job description and you post your ad or you're interviewing. The duties that you need that person to do. So it's very easy to identify the skills needed. But man, I would spend more time thinking of talking to that individual and saying, you know what? I noticed that you've been out of college for 5 or 6 years. You were at this company for 2.5 years. You were at another one for 3 years. You must have really had to overcome some things in those environments. Talk to me about what that is. And let me get a sense of how you make decisions and what you look for. If this is all about, how much am I going to get paid and what's my vacation time? And you're going to let me work remotely from home, right? If all so I would encourage employers to change the interview experience a little bit to make sure you're getting to know somebody and what floats their boat, right? What does excite you in terms of what dragons have you slayed in the 5 years you've been in the workforce or the 10 years? Why'd you leave that place? Can I get an honest answer out of somebody? I think those, you're going to know quick enough about the skill set, but how are you going to approach your job? I need to get a sense if you play well with others, right? I think these are the things, Khalil, that need to be sort of front and center as we're picking our bench.
I would say definitely, like just along with what you're saying, one thing you can go and do is update your interview process to match and to account for the mindset aspect. And I think maybe even if you're not at that step, I think even before that is really defining that mindset. What are the values that are a part of your culture that you want employees to walk in with? And what do they look like in action? If you can define those things very, very clearly, it'll make that interview much easier for you to do. Right. So that's one thing that I think you can go and do. Well, we've covered quite a bit today, Chris. We've talked about the pros and cons of skill set, the pros and cons of mindset. We are both in agreement that things, the job market is crazy right now. There are way more open jobs than applicants available, and things are going to have to be done differently if we're going to succeed. And if we want A players that are going to last longer than 10 months, we've got to start changing the way we do things, but also changing the approach that we take to hires. So lots to think about there. I think to summarize, you need both. You need skill set and mindset, but I think the priority is definitely mindset above. So,
no, I would agree. I appreciate you. I know this came up a few weeks ago when you and I were just having a random conversation. So I appreciate you letting me unpack this. And it was great to talk with the owners that I did. And we're all, it's a balance everybody's aware of. And, it makes us now think about our cultures, right? It's not enough to have skilled folks and hopefully with the right mindset, but we're still not keeping either one, either group if we're not creating an inspiring environment to work in and, like you said, treating them fairly and paying them well.
Absolutely. Well, great. Well, maybe we'll get a hiring update in a few months and see how it's panning out.
Absolutely. In the meantime, you can check me at dressyguysonforklifts.com / hybrid skills matter. Right?
That's great, man. Hope to see you on the forklift more often, or maybe less often if the hiring goes.
All right.
Yeah, take care,
up,
Chris.
Man. See you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Experienced Builders Podcast. Check out our website in the show notes or visit crewxp.com to learn more.